This is an assault on privacy. Who knows what's next? Who knows what's next? Marriage equality? There's so many things that are rooted in privacy in the Constitution that they could go after now. It's really appalling. And so let's not, people say, well, we should enlarge the court, we should, maybe. But right now, we just have to keep our eye on the ball. This is what they're doing. This is what it means to you.
Was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi with a stern warning about the stakes for civil liberties and the future and the United States Supreme Court's most likely forthcoming decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. Pelosi there vowing that Democrats will keep their eye on the ball and work toward legislation that would protect abortion rights in America. There's a hitch there. They don't yet have the votes to do so. Annie Carney in the New York Times writes this on the moves by Democrats to cement abortion rights into law. Quote, the legislation is all but certain to be blocked by Republicans, falling short of the 60 votes needed to advance past a filibuster. It also appears to lack even the simple majority it would need to pass the 50-50 Senate, given that Joe Manchin, the centrist Democrat from West Virginia who opposes abortion rights, voted against bringing up a nearly identical measure in February and has shown no signs that he has shifted his position. That is despite overwhelming evidence that the majority of the American people support abortion rights. A Washington Post ABC News poll last week finds that by a 2-to-1 margin, Americans think Roe versus Wade should be upheld rather than overturned. And conservative Charlie Sykes of our last two blocks points this out. He says the laws poised to be enacted in red states, assuming Roe is overturned, are too radical even for most Republican voters. Charlie writes this, quote, in state after state, GOP legislatures have enacted bans on abortions without exceptions for rape, incest, or in some extreme cases, the life of the mother. To put it mildly, this reflects a dramatic change in the position that pro-life Republicans held until about 5 minutes ago. Joining us now, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Madam Speaker, thank you for making some time for us today. I know it's been a really busy couple of weeks.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful always to be with you, Nicole.
So here's what I haven't heard from Democrats yet, and I know the House has moved to protect abortion rights. So I'm not asking you this in your role as Speaker, but in your role as a leader of your party. Democrats and Republicans decided Roe for the very reasons you said in that clip we played, privacy. Democrats and Republicans affirm Roe in Casey. They saw also Democratically and Republican appointed Supreme Court justices saw privacy as worthy of protecting. All the Republicans on this Supreme Court didn't even vote to overturn it. That's how radical it is. And to Charlie's point, how do you make sure that your party's messaging keeps you where you are, which is in the mainstream of public opinion, and that Republicans don't successfully turn themselves into the ones advocating for the mainstream when they are not? They are way out of the mainstream on this.
Well, thank you, Nicole, for focusing on this very important issue in the lives of the American people, America's families, America's women, of course. The Roe v. Wade is not an extreme position. Roe v. Wade was a compromise. It weighs equities in terms of timing and all the rest. So we have to make sure we keep the focus on enshrining Roe v. Wade in the law so that there cannot be undue burdens placed on it in different states in the union to overturn a woman's right to choose. Now, when you hear the debate now, the Republicans are saying, oh, they want this, they want that. No, we want this calibrated position that was declared by the Supreme Court, really upheld by Casey. 14 times there have been legal decisions addressing the precedent and the privacy that is contained in Roe v. Wade. So again, we are, in other words, let's not take our eye off the ball. The Republicans want to say, let's talk about how the leak came out. No, we're talking about what this means in the lives of the American people and our commitment to the calibration that is contained in Roe v. Wade. And we want to enshrine that in the law. We already passed that in the House months ago. The Senate will take it up on Wednesday. It will take us down a path. And we have to keep fighting until that right is protected, because I have very serious concerns about what that means in the lives of America. Now, I have 5 children in 6 years and 1 week. I have to add the 1 week. So, I appreciate and respect the differences that we have in our own lives. But the fact is, it is not up to justices of the Supreme Court or members of Congress to determine the size and timing of America's families.
Part of how we got here, and I'm, to be blunt, partly to blame, is Republicans have been maniacally focused on filling the Supreme Court with nominees who would do just this. They've been focused on it, and Republicans have a lot more voters who vote on Supreme Court picks and nothing else. It's how they plug their nose and vote for Donald Trump. They say so. How do Democrats do the opposite and make sure that the court, and making sure that we don't have 5 justices that excludes George W. Bush's pick for Chief Justice, don't take away a constitutional right? How do you match the intensity at an emotional gut level on the other side?
You're right. There has been a single focus on the part of the Republicans, and I put some of all of this at the doorstep of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell had over and above his priority to put justices on the court that would overturn a woman's right to choose. It was not only how people voted for president, but it was how they voted in the Senate. I do think that once we win in this election in November, which we fully intend to do, and we have a couple more senators who are pro-choice, we'll be able to enshrine Roe v. Wade as the law of the land. And that means we have to win 2 more who are pro-choice, but also who are willing to pull back the filibuster in order to do that with 51 votes. So, again, you're right, though. We often wonder, why don't people understand when they vote for president that it's about the 3rd branch of government that this president will appoint? And it's not just the Supreme Court. It's all of the justices along the way. Sometimes it really just takes something as appalling and such an assault on privacy, on precedent, on the Constitution, on personal liberty, on the rights of women and families, really, in a country, that bring people's focus into this is what your vote means in the election, and how it affects the courts and how it affects you.
You and I are both from states in which this right probably isn't at risk, in California and New York. But Claire McCaskill, our friend, isn't, and she fears it in Missouri as soon as this decision, if the majority opinion does represent where the court will go, and there's no reason to think it doesn't, based on Justice Roberts' comments, that in her state, abortion will become illegal immediately. What do we do, starting in July? I mean, what is because I hear you, and I have heard other Democrats talk about how motivating this could be. It could change the tide of midterm history. But this is, I think, a right now crisis for a lot of women in this country. What do we do for them right now?
Yes, I think we have. I think you're absolutely right. We have to have clarity in what this draft decision means, so that the final decision doesn't go that far. The Chief Justice has said this is authentic, but it is not final. I don't want to use the word authentic. It's real, but not final. So, again, Lincoln said public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, nothing. And women just have to weigh in. I don't think there's a good outcome here, but I think there's a better outcome than what we have seen in the first draft, which is radical. It just dispenses with precedent, even though some of these candidates when they were candidates for confirmation, said they support it as you've seen over and over again. They supported precedent and what it means, especially precedent that has repeatedly been reinforced. But again, you are completely right. This cannot wait. That's why right now, instead of people going off on what the Republicans would like us to talk about, the leak, no, we're talking about your life.